Today we're going to be embarking on one of our biggest review missions yet. Over the coming months we'll be looking at not one, but all of the Halo released console games. To kickstart it guys, we're going to be looking at the OG of Halo titles, that being Halo Combat Evolved. And we're going to be checking it out on the glossier version on the Halo Master Chief Collection. So with that being said, grab your Halo Nerf gun and strap on your Master Chief helmet, because we're about to jump in.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
Halo Combat Evolved begins with the stage called the Pillar of Autumn. A menacing large ship with the same name is seen rolling through space like something out of Star Wars. We are introduced to the captain of the ship, Captain Keyes. Captain Keyes is the sort of guy you would imagine would be in charge of this big ass ship. A tough, middle-aged man with no time for soldiers slacking on the job. Keyes is seen talking to a hologram computer program called Katana, which we'll talk about a bit more as we go on. We find the enemy alien force Covenant have managed to make their way inside the Pillar of Autumn. Keyes asks for everyone to be at their battle stations, and he means everybody.
Well, that's it then. Bring the ship back up to Combat Alert Alpha. I want everyone at their stations.
Everyone, sir?
Everyone.
This is where we get to see our main character, the green suited weapon, Master Chief. The opening scenes of seeing Master Chief coming out of the pod for the first time are truly awesome. We quickly arrive at the tutorial stage where we can make slight adjustments to the controls. A feature I didn't mind, but honestly wouldn't have missed if it wasn't there. Once all that's out the way, we have to quickly make our way to the Captain's Bridge to speak to Captain Keyes. This part of the game is a real heart racer as you have no gun on the way there. Once at the bridge, Master Chief is handed over the computer chip access of Cortana. Having Cortana fall in the hands of the Covenant would just be a recipe for disaster. Master Chief is given the orders to get his big green ass off the Pillar of Autumn as the ship is going down. At this point of the stage, we get to make some good use of the newly required weapons with killing off grunts and elites. We'll talk more on some of my favourite guns when we get further into this review. The battles with the enemy come in forms of a lot of corridor shooting, which is just something I love. It's just got that old school feel to it. It's not long before we make it to the end of the stage, jumping aboard a life escape pod, which takes us in the direction of Halo.
I'm losing her! Brace for impact!
Master Chief crash lands into the second level. We discover that sadly, Master Chief is the only survivor from the crash pod. Master Chief has no time to waste as his mission is to continue to find Captain Keyes and any survivors along the way. Through the opening areas of the stage Halo, we get to look at the graphical standards of this remastered title. It must be said that I was rather impressed because it sure does hold up strong. I hear asking Russ, does this hold up with the 8th generation consoles? Well, no. Shortly, it doesn't, but remember, Halo Combat Evolved is somewhat of a seasoned title now, so it kind of gets a little bit of leeway in that regard. One thing I loved was rather than the game just getting a glossed over HD treatment with the Master Chief Collection, a new graphics engine was created, giving you the ability to switch between the old graphics of 2001 and today's modern graphics simply with the click of a button. I constantly found myself switching between the two graphic styles to give myself a real look of how far we've come. Buildings looking way more detailed, open areas looking much more lush with plant life, enemies looking super detailed, and vehicles looking way more sexy. Yes, I know, I went there. While I'm getting hot for the vehicles in the graphics department, we get our first test drive during the level Halo with the legendary Warthog. A vehicle so famous, it was even used in Forza Horizon 4. If you're a Forza fan, it's definitely one of my favourite vehicles within the game. In Halo Combat Evolved, the Warthog and I developed a real love-hate relationship, and that's something that we'll touch on in the latter part of this review. Our task in this level is to help save 3 key groups of Marines that have fallen on Halo from their life pods. You do have some freedom in reaching these 3 groups on what is quite a big map. I must admit, I found myself getting quite lost a few times, but thankfully it wasn't for long. You're not confined to having to use the Warthog either in this level, but I must say, it is super helpful having the Marines jump on board the Warthog as they provide you some extra shooting power against the enemy forces. There are a good amount of enemies in this stage, so make sure you're prepared with a good strategy. Once all of your Marine comrades have been saved, you can set off to continue on your quest to find Captain Keyes. We arrive at level 3 with a level called Truth and Reconciliation. From the get-go, we are given a new shiny weapon in the form of a next level sniper rifle packing a whole lot of firepower. This weapon super useful for picking off Covenant in their stationary gun turrets. We find during this level that Captain Keyes has been held prisoner aboard the enemy cruiser, the Truth and Reconciliation. Master Chief and his fellow Marines are sent on a stealth mission to help rescue him. Towards the end of this level, you reach the ship's gravity lift. I personally loved how this area looked and felt with all its vibrantly lit colours and enemies dropping down. It sure was a memorable part for me and super fun to boot. Once we cleared this area of all the enemies, we make our way onto the ship via the gravity pool. This super exciting for the sci-fi fan in me. Once aboard the ship, the game's difficulty really ramps up. I found my big green ass, being handed to me many times until I discovered patterns I could overcome. Sword elites are definitely one enemy to look out for here, and depending on your difficulty, there may be more of them, especially if you're playing through on the legendary mode. One great thing about Halo Combat Evolved is that once you get far enough in a stage, it will auto-save that area. So when you die, you don't have to go too far back. Something that we take for granted nowadays in most modern first-person shooters. The difficulty of the title can also be adjusted throughout, and you can always play a stage again once completed without stuffing up your progress of the entire game. In the later stages of this level, you find Captain Keyes and learn more from him about Halo. We discover that Halo is actually a weapon, and our new mission will be to stop the Covenant from using this weapon against us. Continuing with this stage, we have Captain Keyes by our side, and we must fight off large numbers of Covenant, all the while making sure that Captain Keyes makes it out alive. We escape the stage by hijacking one of our enemy ships. Our new set task this time round is locating the map of the Halo ring. We need to find the map before the Covenant does, so we can beat them to the Halo control room. We don't want their sticky hands on it before us, and using that Halo ring for evil. In the next stage, named the Silent Cartographer, we find out the Covenant believe the secret map room lies somewhere under the island. This level looks like such a beautiful place for a holiday, but sadly, Master Chief has no time to relax. I mean, the human race is really counting on him. The level begins with us running along the beach, taking out Covenant enemies along the way, and it's up there with one of my favourite stage designs. During this stage, the harder enemies start becoming more frequent, one of those being the hunter enemy. The big burly aliens do take a lot of ammunition and grenades to wipe their big butts out. While we're talking enemies, without a doubt guys, my favourite enemy within the title would have to be the cute little grunts. These guys absolutely cracked me up with their little crazy little catchphrases and funny little noises. They highlighted the game to me throughout, and I really loved them to bits. Later in the stage, you reach the map room where you discover the whereabouts of Halo's control room. Things are starting to look a little bit brighter for Master Chief. Before we move on to level 5, I want to talk about the music in this game. Now, I'm someone who always feels like if the soundtrack isn't matching the quality of the scene or the gameplay, I find myself losing interest in the game very fast. The way the music is placed in this game is something truly amazing. It all came down to its timing. Certain tracks would play just at the right moment. At times there would be utter silence, making you feel scared and alone. Then just at the right moment the music would change direction and have you pumped, ready for the battle ahead. This is just something other games should take note from, and I just want to give you guys a little bit of a snippet and tell me this doesn't make you feel pumped. Level 5 brings us to the assault on the control room. This level, living up to its name, is going to take you guys a little around 40 to 45 minutes to complete this stage, or a little bit less if you're skilled to get through this stage. It is a mammoth stage, and you're going to need to have your snacks and your beverages to power you through this. The remainder of this stage can really be broken into two areas, one being in the corridors of shooting up Covenant and the other being outside in the snow. Now, the fair dinkum Aussie in me absolutely loves these snow levels. I never have experienced in my life snow in my hands, so the only way I can do it, sadly, is through games, so this for me is something special. Once Master Chief reaches the control room, our blue friend Katana is pulled from Master Chief's helmet and plugged into the Halo ring. Katana takes a great deal of information directly from the Halo ring and reveals that the Covenant found out something that they shouldn't have. Katana quickly goes on to tell us, without explaining herself, that we must stop Captain Keyes making this all very confusing for Master Chief indeed.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here, find Keyes, stop him. Before it's too late!
Once we make it to level 343 Guilty Spark, you notice things start to get dark and almost creepy. Blood appearing on walls, areas just having dead Covenant just laying around, and rooms which once had Covenant in them are just left vacant. You are left asking yourself, what the hell is going on? We eventually arrive at a part of the game where we have to remove a chip from a dead Marine and place it within our own helmet. Through the footage, we relive a final sad moment from a brave Marine. We discover that Keyes was around earlier, and the team was ambushed by a new enemy race that would soon learn to be the Flood. Basically, guys, like crazy zombie organisms. We discovered the Flood poses even more of a threat to the human race. The best way to get through hordes of these Flood enemies is with the trusty shotgun and quick firing. Once we eventually make it outside, we rejoin with our fellow Marines, and we end up running into a floating robot called 343 Guilty Spark. This sneaky fucker teleports us out of there and into our next level.
Chief, I've lost your signal! Where'd you go? Chief! Chief!
We are teleported into the level called the Library. Now, this isn't your typical relaxing library full of books and people. Oh no. This place holds information to the Flood and acid-pregnant mutants. Ugh. You ultimately need to locate the index to power up the Halo ring. By powering up the Halo ring, you can wipe out the entire Flood. The Flood really turn the heat up in this level, so make sure you keep yourself moving and have plenty of ammo on hand, because they won't stop until you're dead. Again, I highly suggest the shotgun in this area. Eventually, after killing what feels like hundreds of enemies, Master Chief removes the activation index only to have 343 Guilty Spark suck it away from you. Man, 343 was really getting on my nerves. Later in the stage, we run into Katana and discover that the ring's purpose isn't so much to kill off the Flood, but more to starve them of their food. Only problem is, guys, if this is activated, it will wipe out all living life, including us humans. Master Chief takes back the key and now has 343 hot on his case.
You are unwilling to help. I will simply find another. Still, I must have the index. Give your construct to me, or I will be forced to take her from you. That's not going to happen. So be it. Save his head. Dispose of the rest.
The next level 2 betrayals has Master Chief trying to stop the firing of the ring. You spend the level breaking a number of pulse generators by walking straight into them and breaking your shield. I really had a blast with this level, and you have every enemy you can think of being thrown at you to stop you dead in your tracks, even a number of big tanks. This is just so awesome. We arrive, guys, at the second to last level, being codenamed Keyes. Now, this time round, we have to blow up a ship. That ship being the Pillar of Autumn. I found it really interesting to see that we started the game with the Pillar of Autumn, and at the end of the game, we are looking to blow it up. It's just done that complete 360 cycle. Now, we can't review a first-person shooter game without talking about some of my favourite guns within that game. When it comes to this game's guns, there isn't a huge selection, but in my opinion, it really isn't a bad thing. I always think that when a game has a smaller selection, it really gives you that ability to hone in on every aspect of those weapons. If I had to pick a number of my favourite guns in the game, one that comes directly to mind is the Type 25 directed energy pistol, a small gun packing some big punch. Its only downfall being that it does overheat during overextended periods of firing, but hey, what do you expect? It is a plasma gun at the end of the day. My other favourite gun would have to be the shotgun. I mean, what's there not to love about this gun? This one is just super fun, especially if you're going up against the flood when they're all running at you. You need that quick firepower that's effective, and the shotgun definitely delivers on that. So that would have to be my other favourite. Now, if you had to ask me what my least favourite gun is, and I know, guys, this is going to upset some people, but it would have to be the sniper rifle. Although, you know, it was useful against things like the turrets, I personally didn't like it all that much. I've never have been a fan of sniper rifles, and that's just me. I'm the sort of guy that just likes to go in there, run and gun, and just blow things up to pieces. I don't have the time for trying to do these sneaky little sniper shots. It's just not for me. So the sniper rifle, it gets the award, I guess, for being my least favourite weapon within the game. Now, going back to the story, once we battle our way through to the end of the stage, we ascend up one of those fun gravity lifts. Once aboard, we finally find Captain Keys, or more like zombie oversized Keys. Man, this poor bastard never stood a chance. He sadly has passed away being affected with the flood. We have to put our hearts aside for this part, as we need to rip into his head to get that neural interface. Man, Master Chief is a brute here.
What he'd want us to do. It's done.
Once that sad moment's out of the way, we make it out quick on a stolen Banshee. We finally make it to the final stage of the game called the Moor, as we head in the direction of the crash site of the Pillar of Autumn. The goal of this level is to blow up the ship. The difficulty really ramps up with this stage going out with a big bang. Master Chief makes it to the bridge with his sidekick Cortana, only to be greeted by our annoying friend, or foe I should say, the 343 Guilty Spark. A new plane comes in, with Master Chief making his way to the ship's energy room with 343 hot on his case. The aim here is to simply damage the air vents with the use of a rocket launcher or grenades. And I know it sounds simple, and it is, but try saying that with every Tom, Dick and Harry once you're dead. Once we achieve our goal, we make it to the final part with the Warthog. Remember that love-hate relationship earlier? Well, this is where I developed some anger in the game. Now, I'm going to apologise in advance here, guys, for swearing, but fuck me. This final part shitted me right off. We find the Pillar of Autumn is set to blow in 5 minutes, and we need to get our booty out of there by driving out with the trusty Warthog. Well, it would be trusty if Master Chief would stay in his fucking vehicle and avoid all the damn walls along the way. I mean, what is the deal of this level? It was like a cruel act from the developers of the game just to really shit you off, but maybe I'm spoiled by the Warthog in Forza Horizon 4. That vehicle handled super well, but in Halo Combat Evolved, I don't know, for me, this vehicle and I had that big love-hate relationship. I got so angry with this part that I rage quitted and walked away. So I decided during that moment of rage that I would do some research once my head cooled down, and I found that if you kept the Warthog as straight as possible, you could conquer this level with plenty of time to spare. I mean, I'm kind of glad I wasn't the only one who suffered from this, and I can see that this level has appeal, and it was quite fun once I figured out that you had to try not to maneuver the Warthog too much. At the end of the stage, you hit a roadblock with the timer still going. You make a run for it while the final remaining Covenants get picked off with the gun. Running out the game in style, just before the explosion, you jump onto a ship watching the Halo ring explode. Such an epic way to end the game. We enjoyed the ending of the title before being given a final teaser highlighting a second title.
Halo, it's finished.
No, I think we're just getting started.
Wow, what a way to end Halo Combat Evolved. This game truly blew me away. I now know why so many people adore this game. It was just such a memorable game from start to finish, you know, developing those sort of connections with each and every one of the characters along the way, having that fun aspects of all the guns and the vehicles, and then you tie that in with, you know, the things with the amazing music work that was done, with that music just hitting at just the right moments. Just made for a wonderful package altogether, this game. Now when it comes to the score of this game, I have to give it a 8 out of 10. It was amazing. I really loved it. There was a few little hiccups along the way. I did discover a few little bugs and times of the game would stuff up a few times. So overall, you know, it wasn't perfect. And the ending really gave me the shits, but it really didn't, you know, take away from the overall score. But it is truly a wonderful game, and it's right up there with my favorite first-person shooter titles. I just want to make a special thanks to my beautiful wife Jess for helping me with the thumbnails and the artwork in this video, and she will be a big part of this Halo series as we continue. So it's great to have her a part of this and be on board with the art components of the channel. I want to make a big special mention to my YouTube members. You know, without you guys, we wouldn't have the funds in order to pay for certain props. So all the money that comes to the members goes straight back into the channel. So thank you very much for that, guys. And a big thank you to each and every one of my subscribers. You guys are awesome, and it's always great to have you here. Wouldn't be able to have this channel without you guys. Well, there we have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Halo Combat Evolved review. Stay tuned, as we're going to be going in for the next review, being with the Halo 2. This is Gun and Russ signing out once again. See you later, guys.